Greetings, my loyal subjects. I am the KingKrusher, and welcome back to my channel. I know that you guys are more used to the Let's Play videos on my channel, but I decided that I wanted to try a little something different, and so hopefully you guys like it, and I'm not going to waste any of you guys' time, so let's just get straight into the video.
It's Crash Bandicoot!
So I've had this idea for a video for quite a while. I believe it started back whenever the first Mario movie came out, and I saw that Toys for Bob on their Twitter account, they were tagging Sony saying, hey, let's make a Crash Bandicoot movie. And while we have yet to get any official news on a Crash movie or a Crash show or really any good news involving any Crash projects in general, I figured what the heck, I'll go ahead and do a film pitch for the Crash Bandicoot movie. Now, full disclosure, I am going to go at this like it is Sony Animation that is in charge of this movie, since that is what Toys for Bob were suggesting in their tweet. So, yeah, I think it'll be fun. Anyways, without any further ado, prepare yourselves for insanity. This is my pitch for the Crash Bandicoot movie. And if you liked my pitch for this and would like to see me work on any other possible video game movie pitches, please let me know in the comments below. And please like and subscribe if you enjoy the video. So I think the best place to start would be to figure out who the director of this movie is going to be. After all, the director is one of the big decision makers when it comes to a film that can determine everything down to what characters to include and the entire style of the film in general. So, this is a very important decision, because Tim Burton directing Batman is great, but Joel Schumacher directing Batman makes it feel more like the 60s Batman. That being said, no, I am not suggesting Tim Burton direct Crash Bandicoot. That would be completely absurd. There are a couple of directors that I have in mind, all of which I think could mesh well with Crash's style. So, I will start relatively smaller and work my way up to what I consider to be the big guns. So, first off, I think a good choice for a video game movie would be someone who has worked on successful video game movies before. So, my first pick is Jeff Fowler, who directed all three of the Sonic movies and is currently working on the fourth one. Now, I know that Jeff Fowler directing this movie wouldn't be confirming that the film would be perfect or anything, but he did find a way to make the video game elements of Sonic actually fit within a film and make sense. And I know that now with Sonic 2 and Sonic 3 being out, people act like the first movie is inferior. But I actually think it is on the same level of representing the first game of the franchise. Like, what is the main goal of the original Sonic game? To collect the rings and at the end defeat the evil Dr. Robotnik. Now, sure, we do have the Chaos Emeralds in that game that you can collect, but it doesn't really add much to the game, so just don't include that. And what is the first movie about? Sonic, who finds himself on planet Earth, where the evil Dr. Robotnik is after him, and all the while Sonic is out to collect his misplaced rings so he can escape the threat. Sure, there are a couple of added elements in there, but ultimately the plot is very similar. And the game Sonic 2 is about Sonic and Tails finding the Chaos Emeralds to stop the evil Dr. Robotnik, who has returned to his evil ways. And the film is the same, with Knuckles thrown into there as well. which you could argue doesn't make sense since he wasn't in the game Sonic 2. But with the magic of Sega's lock-on technology or the Sonic Origins collection, he can be played in Sonic 2. I know that I am making a bit of a stretch there, but I think you understand the point that I am making. Jeff Fowler took those very simple story outlines from those games and managed to translate that into well-made narratives for the big screen. So, if he could do the same for our beloved Bandicoot, and if this film was made fully animated, which would be the best route to go, that would make it a lot easier to implement those video game elements. So yes, my first pick for a director for the Crash movie is Jeff Fowler. Now, my next pick may make you a bit confused on his placement, since I know some would say he is the absolute best in the business. Some absolutely hate him, and I'm personally in the camp of loving his work. But I think you'll understand his placement once you see my final pick. That man who has impressed just about everyone is, of course, James Gunn. Now, Gunn has made a bit of a name for himself over the years, seemingly popping out of nowhere to direct the Guardians of the Galaxy movie. He later went on to make the superior Suicide Squad movie, the Peacekeeper series, and now after finishing his Guardians trilogy for Marvel, he is now in charge of the entirety of DC's filmography. And he has already started off strong with the latest Superman movie, and I'm eager to see what else he has in store for us. But he has actually been in the industry for longer than some may realize. For example, you know those live-action Scooby-Doo movies? Well, he wrote the screenplays for those movies, and was originally going to be the director for the first one. And I don't know about everyone else, but I wouldn't have minded to see James Gunn's full vision for a Scooby-Doo movie. But why do I think that Gunn would be a good fit for a Crash Bandicoot movie? Well, we have seen that he enjoys bringing particularly crazy worlds with wacky characters to life in fun and interesting ways. And something else that I think the Crash movie would need that Gunn can provide is, of course, comedy. But also having some heartfelt scenes as well, especially since this would be a kids' movie. And if you haven't seen any of the Guardians movies, let me just tell you all, Gunn is great at this. So yes, my second pick is James Gunn. So, now we are on to my last pick, and after my previous one, I am sure some of you are curious who this pick is. Or, some of you might already know who it is, just based on what studio I said it would be doing this film. But, nonetheless, my final pick is the dynamic duo of Phil Lord and Chris Miller. These guys are really something else. I swear almost everything that they touch turns to gold. Like they managed to make films that just sound like absolute cash grabs or just dead on arrival into masterworks that deserve to be remembered for years and years to come. I mean, from Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, the Lego movie, Mitchell's vs. the Machines, the 21 Jump Street movies, and of course, the Spider-Verse films. Time and time again, these guys really have proved that they are a force to be reckoned with. Now, if they were directing the film, I wouldn't want it to become Into the Crashverse or something like that. But I think they could be useful in giving the film that bit of style that it could use in order for it to stand out. Now, I don't know exactly what they would do, but I think I have an idea of what art direction they would take with it. I know that with the Lego movie, that they definitely took a lot of inspiration for how they animated it from the Lego Animations Online, with trying to give it that stop-motion feeling at points. And in the Spider-Verse films, of course, we know that they made the film oftentimes look like a comic book. So clearly, when Lord and Miller worked on a film, they look into how they can make it feel familiar to the roots of that franchise. Even with Mitchell's vs. the Machines, they styled it like a college student's film project, which fits perfectly for that film. So, if they were to work on a Crash movie, I think it would be very interesting if they made it look like the original PS1 games, using a lot of sharp edges and polygons, and they could even style the scene transitions as loading screens, which I think would be really fun. And, much like James Gunn, they are very good at giving us comedic moments and emotional moments. And like Jeff Fowler, they definitely know how to respect the original source material of any project they take on. So, yes, I think that Lord and Miller are the absolute perfect pick to direct this film, which works well since they already have ties to Sony Animation. So, now that we have the directors settled, let's move on to the story for this film. So, as previously discussed, the ideal directors for this film would be Phil Lord and Chris Miller. Now we need to lay the groundwork, the actual story that Crash will be partaking in. So, what should it be? Well, the obvious choice is, of course, the plot of the original game. Crash is experimented on by Dr. Neo Cortex, and after he makes his escape, he must return to the castle to stop Cortex's evil schemes and save Tawna. Now, while that layout is fine, I think some things should be changed to better benefit the film. So, we will stick with Cortex doing his experiments on Crash, but when the experiment fails, I think instead of Crash escaping, it should be that Cortex considers him a failure and kicks Crash out of the castle, and he ends up on Insanity Beach. Now, at this point, I think I am going to take from the game Crash 4 It's About Time. In that game, you could get flashback tapes that showed Cortex putting Crash through multiple different trials before doing his experiment. But it also showed that Coco is there as well, instead of just randomly appearing in Crash Bandicoot 2. So, I think instead of the goal for Crash being to rescue Tawna, I think it should be about him going back to rescue his little sister. But don't worry, I don't think Tawna should be cut out of the film entirely, but we will get to that. And I want to mention this now, I don't think Crash should talk at all in this film. Yes, he can make some occasional noises and his iconic "whoa," but I don't think he should really be able to talk like everyone else can. Now, I know that this can present the problem of how we would get to know this character if we don't know what he is saying or thinking. Well, I think that this would present an interesting opportunity. Since, as far as I can remember, I don't really recall there being a main character of a film who is mute outside of, silent films. But I think that Crash has the advantage of being a cartoon character, basically. He can get across ideas simply by making certain gestures, and maybe he can even do imitation, where he moves his body to appear like someone or something else. But I genuinely think that it is vitally important that Crash doesn't talk. And part of that is because of the message that I think the film could deliver, but we will get there soon enough. So, once Crash lands on Insanity Beach, I think we should get a small scene of him wandering around scared in the jungle, until he runs into his mask mentor, Aku Aku. When he does find Aku, he can function as the voice for Crash as he does in the games, so that we aren't going through the whole movie without any talking. So Crash will explain to Aku through gestures that he has to get back to the castle to rescue Coco from Cortex. Aku decides to help Crash and leads him to a nearby tribe, which Aku Aku used to be a part of, before he became a sentient mask that protects the nearby wildlife. And this tribe is led by Papu Papu. Aku explains to Papu Papu that they need to reach Cortex Castle so that they can free Crash's sister. Papu, not being a fan of Cortex invading their land, tells them how to get to the castle and warns them of Cortex's minions who will try to stop them. And just as Crash and Aku are about to leave, something makes Papu angry at Crash. This could be a couple of things. Either Papu realizes Crash is one of Cortex's experiments and wants him destroyed. Crash could have possibly broken something that angered Papu Papu. Accidentally eaten a Wumpa fruit dessert that was meant for Papu. Or maybe since we are keeping Crash mute in this, it could be that there is something that you have to say to a tribe leader before you leave them, and it is disrespectful to leave without saying anything. So Crash not being able to say anything angers Papu Papu, which could then inevitably lead to a small fight where it ends with Crash hopping on top of Papu and escaping the tribal village with Aku Aku. At this point, we could cut back to Cortex Castle, where we see Cortex and Embryo have refined the machine that they used on Crash, before now using it on Coco. So, now after they put Coco through the machine, it turns out to be a success, with Coco being able to talk and being incredibly smart. But before they can fully complete the process and make her one of their minions, Coco manages to escape and sets off to find her brother. Cortex is very displeased with this occurrence, and he orders Embryo to find him another Bandicoot, and fast. We cut back to Crash and Aku, who have climbed up on top of an ancient temple, where they find a waterfall that has a bunch of TNT crates placed, looking like they are set to blow the place, when they are confronted by Ripper-Roo. To tie this better together with future films and characters, I think that it should be changed so that Ripper-Roo was sent to destroy this temple area, because this is the temple prison of Uka Uka. So, knowing that, Aku Aku insists on Crash putting a stop to Ripper-Roo. Although, I don't think Aku Aku should outright say that this is the prison of his brother, but it could be hinted at. So, then, Crash fights and beats Ripper-Roo, and then removes the TNT from the temple, keeping the world safe from Uka Uka. For now. So then, Crash and Aku find a minecart close by, and get inside and ride it down through the caves to where Cortex has sent his minion, Koala Kong, to the mines to retrieve any gems if he were to find any. And it would be at this point where I think Coco should catch up with Crash. Something else that I want to address is that I think this should be the first point in the film where Crash uses his iconic spin attack. I know that sounds like an odd decision, but hear me out. In the original game, the first two bosses, Papu Papu and Ripper-Roo, aren't defeated using Crash's spin, but rather by him jumping either on Papu's backside or the TNT to blow up Ripper-Roo. And the boss after that is the first boss that Crash requires to use his spin attack. And I want these battles in the film to look and feel like the battles from the games. That is why I've chosen to style the battles like this. So I think the best way to do this would be for Coco, since she is the smarter sibling, to spin the boulder at Koala Kong first, and then Crash follows her lead and uses the spin for himself. When they beat Koala Kong, the whole cave starts collapsing, and a giant boulder starts rolling after them as they race out of the cave. After they escape the boulder, Coco tries to talk to Crash, but Aku Aku explains that Crash can't speak. Hearing this, Coco feels bad that her brother is, in a sense, incomplete. So she realizes that if they go back up to Cortex Castle and use the machine again, after Coco makes the proper adjustments, they could make him smarter and give him the ability to speak. Coco begins to lead the way to Cortex Castle, but now Crash is unsure about this, and if he wants to be changed from what he is. I think this part is important, since I think the overall message for this film is that you shouldn't feel obligated to change who you are, and you should be comfortable with being who you are. This idea comes in part from Leopold the Brave, who is, I think, the only other person who has made a Crash movie pitch video that I have found. So please go and check out his video as well. But what he suggests is Crash is kind of being a representation for people with disabilities. And I honestly think that that is a great idea, which is why I am implementing it as part of my pitch. So, now, I think it would be a good opportunity to cut back to Embryo and two of the lab assistants who bring in Tawna to show Cortex that they were successful in acquiring a new Bandicoot for the experiment. Cortex is pleased by this news and orders them to prepare her for the machine. Embryo and the lab assistants take her away, as Embryo mutters to himself something about being bossed around by Cortex. We then cut back to Crash and Coco, who find themselves in front of Cortex Power. Here we could get some slapstick from Crash making attempts to open the door until Coco hacks the door open, and they make their way through the plant until they find Pinstripe Potaru. They fight against him and beat him, leaving only Embryo and Cortex left to fight. We cut back to Cortex, who has just found out that his minions have been defeated, and he realizes that it is the two Bandicoots that had left his clutches. He then orders Embryo to get Tana and has his lab assistants prep his blimp. He tells Embryo to stay behind and to keep the Bandicoots away until he can take off in the blimp. So Crash and Coco finally reach the castle and begin the climb to the top, where they find Embryo. During this fight, I think it would be a good moment to show Crash's growth from the scared Bandicoot in the jungle at the beginning of the film to being more confident with the company of Aku Aku and Coco. So I think Embryo, once he turns into a monster, should hold Coco in his hand and is about to kill her, but Crash sees this, so he jumps and spins into Monster Brio, dropping Coco and falling out of the window. After the window is broken, they hear Tana shouting down to them, before Cortex drags her away as he is about to take off. Crash and Coco get on the blimp before it takes off. Coco goes to find where Cortex put Tana, while Crash goes to fight Cortex himself. Then we have the climatic battle between the two, ultimately ending with Cortex falling onto one of the islands below them. Coco steers the blimp back to the castle so that they can correct the experiment done on Crash, but when they present the option to him, Crash makes it clear that he is happy staying the way he is, and he spins into the machine, destroying it once and for all, ending the film. And I would say that there are two post-credit scenes for this film. One with Cortex finding the Master Crystal from the second game, saying, "Crystals, of course." And the second scene would show Cortex rummaging around in the fallen remains of Cortex Castle, trying to scrounge up any of his technology that he can. And then we see a close-up of a missile, while a robotic voice says, "I hope I'm not too late for the interview," revealing Engine as he approaches his new boss, both hinting at the sequel. So there you go. That was my pitch for what a Crash Bandicoot movie could be. And I've got to be honest, I know it's not perfect, but I'm actually very proud of how it turned out. Now, I really want to know what you all think. Do you like my ideas for how to make Crash Bandicoot into a movie? Is there something you would change, or do you think Crash is a franchise that just won't work in the film medium? Please comment below and let me know what you think. And if you have any suggestions for any other games you would like to see a movie made for, or one that is actually decent, Ratchet and Clank movie for example, I will gladly take a look at them. So, thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.